Alright guys, welcome back. So this week I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can use a CNC to help make diorama pieces. So I'm going to cover a lot of information in a very short period of time. So if you have questions that I don't cover here, please leave a comment and I'd be happy to get back to you. So all the smile links in the comment section benefit the American Lymphoma and Leukemia Society. I see no benefit from them. So keep that in mind. Might have some drill bits there, a router, a couple different things. So with all that being said, we'll go ahead and get started with what we're going to talk about today. First and foremost, I always like to talk about health and safety. A router can be a pretty dangerous piece of equipment if you're not careful with it, much like any other power tool. So always follow the manufacturer guidelines. In terms of content for today, going to cover designing in Fusion 360, things to consider when you're using a CNC. So you're going to have to do some tool changes. You're going to have to learn how to use the software. I'll cover that. You're going to have to invest in a variety of different bits based on the application. And you'll see today, for a very simple design, I actually use two different bits. From a safety standpoint, I talked about it a little bit. So 3D printing, I'll monitor with a little CCTV camera. Whereas with a router, I never leave it unattended. There's potential for it to crash. Your router can burn up the material and lead to a fire. So I personally don't leave it unattended at all. There's some software things you can do to help with that, but it's just a personal preference. So in terms of which router is right for you, bigger is always better. You can do small jobs on a big router, but you can't always do a big job on a small router. Personally, I use the Shapeoko. There are others, so I would recommend you check out Facebook groups, YouTube reviews, and help to decide what's best for you. Material selection, so a router can do a variety of things, but for dioramas, I'll either use PVC or pink foam. So PVC can be CNC but not lasered. Pink foam is a little softer, but it needs to be flattened first, and there's a special process for that. Dust collection can use a shop vac or something more elaborate, and then a supplementary waste board so that when you're running your router, you don't ruin the waste board that comes with the CNC. So for an entry-level person, something I'd highly recommend. It's something I still use. So this is the sketch that Terrafoamer sent me of the garage door that he wanted. So I'm going to walk through how I took this sketch from him and how I turned it into an electronic sketch in Fusion 360 that I then put into my CNC software. So to get started, I am going to generate a 10-inch by 10-inch square, and then I'm going to take out these little diagonal lines. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to put a horizontal line here, and I'm going to measure off 2 inches from the bottom, much like was in his sketch. And I'm going to draw another horizontal line, and I'm going to measure it 2 inches from the previous horizontal line. Oops. There to there, 2 inches. And then I'm going to do another horizontal line. Now there's another way to do this, but given it's only 5 lines, I'm just going to manually go ahead and do it this way so that they're equally spaced. And then when I get done doing this, I'm going to put the 2 windows in. So from here to here, 2 inches. And I'm going to go up here to the square tool. I'm going to draw the first one in. And I can't remember how high he wanted to bear with me. Let me pull up that on my phone. That's not it. So I got 2 inches of space there between the 2 lines. So I believe I'm going to go 1.5 high. Bear with me here. Confirm that. And I'm going to set this at 3.5. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the top of the window to the higher line. I'm going to set that at 0.25 so that it's centered between the panel there. Oops, click cancel. Redo that, come over here. Change this dimension to what I want it to be. And I'm going to measure from the side of the door to the window, like so. And now I'm going to draw a line down the center line of the door so I can mirror that window so that it's exactly the same on both sides of the door. So I'm going to select that sketch of the window here, and here, and here. And now I'm going to select that center line, and that puts it there. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the radius of each corner to 0.125 inches. So, and I'm going to do this. Now, what I should have done was to do this before I mirrored it, but instead of going backwards and duplicating that, I'm just going to do it here. You'll see here in a minute, it doesn't take very long to do that. And I'm choosing 1.125 because that's actually the size of the bit that I'm going to cut out these windows with. So that's why I went with that dimension. So got here, 0.125, and here. And again, I could have selected all of these and set them all at 0.125. But again, it's a fairly simple design, and it only take a couple minutes for me to adjust this. And here, and up here. And then what I'm going to do for an output to take this into the CNC software, I am going to save it as a DXF file. But first I'm going to save it onto Fusion so that I have it in case I have to make this door again and I'll have to go through this whole process. Right click, save as DXF. And next I'm going to save this and open up Carbide Create and then import that DXF that I just made, like so. And I realized that I need to resize it, so I'm going to go from that to 10 by 10, and it should scale it for me automatically. And I'm going to center it up in the material here. All right. So the default is a 24 by 24 piece of material stock. So I can actually change that to 12 by 12, which is what the stuff that Terraformer sent me. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just doing it to give folks the idea of what to do. So set the drill bit to 1/16 of an inch for these horizontal pieces. Do a max depth, so this is how far I want to cut total. And then I'm going to go up here, depth per pass. So in this case, I'm going to make it the same because it's only 0.06 inches. So it's not going to be that deep of a cut. And PVC isn't that hard of a material. And I'm only cutting a groove on it. So I'm going to create another step here because I'm going to change the bit mid-process to a 1/8 bit. And the reason I'm doing that is because the larger diameter bit you use, the harder you can cut, the more you can cut, and the faster you can go. So that's why I am doing that. So I'm going to come up here, highlight these windows to cut those out. And the perimeter of the door. Oops, hold on, let me change this back here really quick. So again, depth per pass. You got to be careful you're not too aggressive with the cuts, because if you're too aggressive, you can actually break a bit. So for this, I'm going to set the cut to the outside of it, so I get a nice clean 10 by 10 door. Probably could spend 10 minutes of the benefits of each cut between a pocket, outside, inside, and no offset. So I always like to measure twice, cut once. So this little tool will show me what it'll look like. And you can see that it's showing me what it looks like is the door cut out, but I'm not seeing those horizontal lines. So I'm going to go up here, double check something really quick, and then I'm going to change the preview material to MDF or wood. And see if I can see those horizontal lines, and they're still not there. So that first step, I must have missed something. So I'm going to exit this simulation, and then I'm going to go back up, and I am going to poke around a little bit. And so this is a big part of the CNC process. So I've scrapped a lot of material, so I always like to double and triple check my stuff before I actually send it. It's a lot easier to change it on the software than to scrap a piece of material, and they're still not there. So what I'm probably going to do here is I'm going to delete the original horizontal lines, like so. And so what will happen is I'll actually run two different tool paths. So I'll run the first tool path, which is the horizontal lines. The machine will pull off the material. I'll stop it. I'll change the bit. and then I'll run group 2. That's kind of how I do things where I have to do a tool change. If I would have ran the horizontal lines in a 1/8 inch bit, they would have looked really funny and they would have looked not really to scale. So I'm going to try these horizontal lines again. I'm going to set my bit to a 5mm or 1/16 of an inch. Although that's not a true 1-to-1 conversion, I'm the only one using this, so it's close enough. So next I'm going to move that tool path that I just created, move it up to the previous group, and now I'm going to simulate it again and zoom in, and you can actually see, once I get this angle right, you can actually see that the lines are there. So from here I can send it to Carbide Motion, which is another software that actually talks to the router and tells it what to do. But that's a different video for a different time. So in closing, after I make this change, here we go, zoom out just a hair. So in closing, test the waters. Consider going to a makerspace near you. You can Google it. You can bring your own material with you sometimes. Just reach out to them. That way you get an opportunity to learn how to use their router before you make a $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 or more investment in a CNC. Or if you don't have the space for one. So it's about 40 inches by 40 inches. And you're going to have to buy bits, several things to really get off the ground and running. Go to a makerspace, test the waters. Might be a little bit different during the pandemic, or just be patient and wait until the pandemic subsides. Sorry about the dog barking in the background there. So with that being said, that's all I got. Please leave a comment, and I'd be happy to help.